Greetings, Lewis, and welcome to another video. So, today I kind of want to talk about Snake Eye Fire King. I know that we haven't talked a lot about the deck and the position in the metagame this format, but I kind of wanted to wait a little bit and see what would happen in the following weeks prior to the release of Phantom Nightmare. By the time of this recording, we're on March 8th, which is exactly 1 month since it's the release of Phantom Nightmare and the viability and legality of the Snake Eye Fire King deck and Snake Eye variants throughout the format. We see here that in the OCG, there are some other decks that are keeping up with Snake Eye Fire King. And in the TCG, we've been having success in the major event level that is super dominant by the Snake Eye Fire King deck. However, we do have events like, for example, locals, where we see other decks just performing well despite the deck's existence and representation. Like one example here, we have from Vanquish Soul Duelist, a locals that was won by Vanquish Soul, and you would say, well, probably that was a locals where the Snake Eye Fire King deck was non-existent, but I went to that locals and I can tell you right now there was at least 4 to 5 to 6 people playing the Snake Eye Fire King deck. And as you can see here, in one of the rounds, they did face a pure Snake Eye, and they will beat them 2-0. Adding to this, we have other players, like for example, Jesse Cotton, who are advocating and promoting the existence of budget alternatives to decks that can actually contest against the Fire King deck. We have here like a Stardust Runic deck that topped regional, and Joshua Smith is talking about it as well. And it's very weird to say that because Runic is have been falling off in the past few months. So what we have here is a typical Snake Eye Fire King hand. And if you're wondering what this deck list is, and if this deck list is correct, I pretty much just took a little bit of what is built in the OCG and just made a few minor differences. For example, I'm not playing Threkirin, I'm playing one island, I'm not playing Skyburn, and we don't have Maxi in here in the TCG, so we have to play another hand trap or another piece of non-engine. But it's pretty much the same deck. And I'm going to try a few test hands and just explain the situation at hand. If we look at the hands that I have, for example, we have double Bonfire, double Ash. This is a redundant hand. However, this hand actually plays the game because Snake Eye Ash by itself is full combo. Now let's try a second hand. This hand is also playable because we have both the Dark Witch and we have Snake Eye Oak. You can even just special the Witch by dumping Poplar, not use Poplar's effect, and then just normal Oak to just special the Poplar in the off chance that the Black Witch is contested. But yeah, that's just to say that we have playable hands in this deck. However, we're in a format where if your opponent actually hand traps you and just freezes your strategy at the right point, where you're not going to win the game. All my Snake Eye Fire King opponents that I faced, at least on the tournament level, I've beaten all of them except for one of them, and the one I've lost against pretty much opened really strong blowout cards. They opened 1-for-1, Called by the Grave. I did not lose the die roll against them, and they pretty much just went full combo. I've had a hand where I didn't open enough hand traps. But yeah, pretty much the name of the game right now is you have to play a lot of hand traps. You can play board breakers or you can play other non-engine cards, but hand traps are your best bet because just insulating the Snake Eye Fire King play is just very very strong. The Snake Eye Fire King deck is really really strong because if you don't open like super redundant hands, you can just play through the hand traps and just full combo them. And that kind of reminds me of a deck that used to be popular a couple of years back, and that is Adamantipator. We didn't actually had a real chance to play competitively this format due to circumstances, but this deck or this strategy was very popular back then, and it felt insanely powerful for the aforementioned reason. This was a strategy that was really strong against hand traps. It had a really strong resiliency. It had really really strong engine, and more importantly, its extra deck was super compact with really high impact cards. Cards like Link Cross, Union Carrier, and Crystal Hulky Fibrax are cards that you can reminisce similar to like you would see with Promethean Fire Princess, Zealantis, IP with Flamberge, and like so on and so forth. Uh, Another card that is a really strong comparison to something we have at the at the moment is Block Dragon. Block Dragon was an incredibly strong monster. Not only did it enable a lot of power plays, but it enabled a lot of resiliency, and just having the ability to spawn a Block Dragon even from the spell and trap zone. That's why we have Union Carrier. Just gave this deck an incredibly high ceiling. It was super uncontested. Another deck that was really popular in this format and it was almost neck to neck with this deck was the Eldritch Synchro deck, featuring Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon. So this was another strategy that was played back then, and there was another really really strong strategy. It had enough room for non-engine. It had a way to beat Mystic Mine because Mystic Mine was a card that existed in the format. Like it has a lot of extenders. It has a lot of plays, and yeah, if Crystal Hulky Fibrax resolved, like you're pretty much winning the game because that is so much card advantage that you just got out of this engine, and you had like other engine that just made it so you didn't lose to like the other strategies. This deck also had a Floodgate lock with the Destruction Sword, at least an Emancipator one. So yeah, like if we go back to the Fire King deck, the Fire King Snake Eye deck, it just feels super reminiscent to that strategy, and we're in a point where people already figured out what to do against that deck. Uh, not That's not to say that the competitive success of this deck is dwindling. I think like there's no debate that the Snake Eye Fire King deck is like the best deck in the format, and Snake Eyes are pretty much like the second best deck. Or if you pair Snake Eyes as an engine or as a strategy by itself, it's pretty much the most dominant engine in the game. However, until a ban list addresses this strategy, you're just going to see a lot more strategies and a lot more decks that are just going to play cards to just insulate this deck while they get to play their engine. That's why Marincess is really good. That's why Vanquish Soul is also performing well. And if we see here in the OCG, the Tempai Dragon deck is playing a lot of hand traps, like a really good amount between the main and the side deck. And they even have room for Dimension Shifter, which is a really really strong card that this deck can perform. Uh, so basically, I kind of wanted to like talk about this discussion because uh, right now it's in the air whether or not we're in a tier 0 format. Uh, the best comparison to this format is the Adam Emancipator one, and there was no real way to say if this deck was tier 0 because we didn't have any actual competitive events that were Konami sanctioned where this deck was legal. However, uh, that did not stop Konami from actually hitting this deck and like nuking cards like Link Cross and like Block Dragon away from the competition before it actually had its real format that it could perform at. That being said, I'd say if you are forced to build your strategy in order to beat the best deck, then it's pretty much close to what we can call tier 0 because you're already seeing the results from the YCSs and from like the other sanctioned events and from regionals. We've already know that this deck is dominating. Like we already know that the fire is dominating, and like the rule of the format is either you play fire decks or you have to make sure that your strategy can pretty much align with them. And that brings up a new problem that we have. And the new problem is voiceless voice. Uh, that's not to say the voiceless voice is at par with the Fire King Snake Eye deck. However, if you take Fire King Snake Eye out of the format, voiceless voice is pretty much the next best deck. And I'm going to tell you this right now, competitively, throughout tournaments, be it locals, case tournaments, like casual tournaments, or like stuff like that, OTS tourneys, I've lost more to voiceless voice than I have with the fire strategy. And that's pretty ironic because I am playing a strategy that kind of has like a lot of silver bullet cards for voiceless voice. But I think that's going to be another discussion for another day. I also kind of want to talk about floodgates and their position in the format because these are also very, very, very imperative to some decks' success here in the TCG as well. But yeah, that's it from me. I hope you found this video informative and to your liking understanding. More format videos coming soon. Keep practicing and keep dueling.